Wants to volunteer for that, please feel free. There's a sign-up sheet right back there. You're more than welcome to do that. You'll notice that we have left up our job boards from last week, so if you're looking for a way to volunteer and get involved in the church, you still have opportunities available. Just please, after service today, take time, look around at those things, and see if there's something that strikes your fancy, and if there's a ministry or a mission that you want to champion and get behind and make it the most vibrant mission and ministry of this church, you're welcome to dive in, and I will support you and encourage you and empower you in any way possible to make that happen. If there's a passion in you for something, I implore you to get in the game. I really do. God is amazing. He will do amazing things in and through this church, and it just needs willing people to step up and say, I can serve. And so please be considering that. One announcement for you. On Wednesday, June 1st, 6 o'clock, Mile High School's baccalaureate will be held here. I would invite you to come on out and just support the graduates this year. That's at 6 o'clock. June 1st, we will be hosting them for their baccalaureate. And now I'll get into today's message. In Matthew 7:21, Jesus said, "Not everyone who says to me, 'Lord, Lord,' will enter the kingdom of heaven, but only the one who does the will of my Father who is in heaven." And in 1 Peter chapter 2, Peter implores the church, "Dear friends, I urge you as foreigners and exiles, or as strangers and pilgrims, to abstain from the sinful desires which wage war against your soul. Live such good lives among the pagans that they accuse you of doing wrong. They may see your good deeds and glorify God on the day he visits us." And in 2 Corinthians, Paul writes, "For we know that if the earthly tent, which is our house, is torn down, we have a building from God, a house not made with hands, eternal in the heavens." As Paul would describe it, this home, this life, this tent is temporary. But an eternal home exists in heaven. And there's a couple of distinctions between those two homes, and I want to highlight those today. Now, my current temporary home is the parsonage of the Tripoint Church of God, located just to the south end of the campus here. And we moved into there, my family and I, back in October, and been doing some things to kind of fix things up a little bit there. And but it's a temporary home. I don't own it. I don't hold any title to it. I can only stay as long as you want me to, and then it's you'll show me the door. And that's the reality of it. Now, I also have another temporary home. Our home is down south of Luzerne, about 4.5 miles back in the National Forest. Sits on Coyote Drive. Well, it doesn't really sit on it, but it's near it, and so they call it Coyote Drive. I don't know why, but it's a temporary home too. It's one that we have fixed up and built. We have things there. But as we saw this week, a tornado could lay it flat tomorrow. I don't know how long it's going to stand. Sorry, Gabs, but it's ours forever, however long that is. But a forest fire wipes it out or whatever. It is a temporary home. But like the rest of us, I do have a permanent home, and it's a heavenly home. Jesus told his disciples as he was preparing to go to the cross that, "Let not your heart be troubled. Believe in God, believe also in me. In my Father's house are many rooms. If it were not so, would I have told you that I go to prepare a place for you? And if I go and prepare a place for you, then I will come again and take you unto me, that where I am, you may be also. And you know the way to where I'm going." And Thomas said that we don't even know where you're going. How are we going to know how to get there? And Jesus said to him, "I am the way, I am the truth, and I am the life. And no one comes to the Father but by me." In our culture, some of this narrative gets a little bit lost because we have a little different way of doing things culturally in the marriage and in home building way than in Jesus' day. But in Jesus' day, this would have been a very understandable example. A gentleman who desired to marry someone's daughter would go to the father and they would strike a deal. for what it would cost him to bring the guy's daughter into his home. And when the bargain is struck, the father would drink to it, the son would drink to it, and then the daughter would have an opportunity to accept it, and she would drink from the cup. And if she didn't, then it was a no deal, and that was the end of it. He'd have to go find someone else. But once the deal was struck, the bridegroom would then leave and go back, usually to his father's place, where he would start to build a room adjacent to the father's home, so that when it was completed, he could go and collect his bride and bring her back to the home that he built for him. And so Jesus is laying out this example that says, I am going to go away and I'm going to create a room, a house, a place for you to dwell. For you and you and you and you and you, and everybody has a place to live in this home. And it is there for us. And if we remain a faithful bride and wait for him to come, he will collect us and take us to that home, that permanent home that won't be destroyed. God has prepared an eternal place for each one of us. The question is, can you find it? So today I want to just look at the, kind of want to contrast the temporary earthly home to the permanent, everlasting, heavenly home. Well, first we need to understand what is a home. And so for today, for my purpose, I just want to lay out 4 principles that make a home. The first is that a home is a place of rest. It's where you go at the end of the day or the night, depending on which shift you work, to lay your head down and to recharge and to re-energize and to renew your soul and your spirit and your strength so that you can come back out again tomorrow and start it all over again. David, when he had decided that he was going to build a temple for the Lord to reside in, he wrote in Psalm 132, he said that, surely I will not enter my house nor lie in my bed. I will not give sleep to my eyes or slumber to my eyelids until I find a place for the Lord, a dwelling place for the mighty one of Jacob. Now, David never did complete that task because God said that it would not be his to do but his son. But the point is that it was an understanding that the home, a dwelling place, was a place for rest, a place that you would go to find solace, a place that you would go to be re-energized and renewed. Home is also a place of security. We all know the saying, a man's home is his castle. Absolutely. What is a castle? It is nothing more than a fortress. It is a structure designed and built to keep people safe. In fact, in the old serfdom days, the castle would sit on the hill, and the lord of the manor would parcel out labor to people down in the area around, and in the event of marauders or somebody attacking, they would retreat to the castle where it was fortified and secure. A home is a place of security. Just last week we were looking at the story of Lot in Sodom and Gomorrah, and when the angels came to Lot's house and the people in town wanted to accost him, he had brought them into his home, and Lot stepped out and said, no, they're under my roof, they're under my protection. And he felt that even these godless people of Sodom and Gomorrah understood that in the home there is security of some sort. A home is also a place of love, or it's supposed to be. The ideal that God placed upon the home is that husbands are to love their wives, that wives are to love their husbands and their children. It's kind of a general expectation that people have, right? Somebody in the house should love somebody and create a home. Now, love is not always perfect in a home. I can assure you that. Home is also a place of family. In Proverbs 25:17, it says, let your foot rarely be in your neighbor's house, or he will become weary of you and hate you. Reminds me of a t-shirt my sisters gave me after I visited them in Phoenix one year. It said, the house guests are like fish. After 3 days, they both begin to stink. So, house guests, like friends and neighbors, it's okay to welcome them, It's also okay to say goodbye. Yeah. But they are the exception rather than the rule itself. A home is a place of rest, and a home is a place of security. A home is a place of love, and it's a place of family. So let's take a look at the temporary and the eternal and see how they stack up. Our earthly home is a place of rest, and while that is true, there are responsibilities as well. Seems like there's always just one more project to be done. Now, if you're fortunate to have like 4 or 5 kids and they all have an open house, by the end of the 5th one, you might almost be there, right? But there ain't a whole lot of rest involved with that. Seems to be a little bit more work. I love how Ecclesiastes 10:18 says it. Through indolence the rafters sag, and through slackness the house leaks. Well, rest can be found at home. More often than not, it requires intensive labor to maintain that place of rest. Now, our earthly home also is supposed to provide us security, and it does to a certain extent. But Jesus said, be sure of this, that if the head of the house had known at what time of night the thief was coming, he would have been at the alert and would not have allowed his house to be broken into. Now, I don't want to get everybody all nervous. Oh, no, all my stuff. I'm in church, and everybody knows it, and who's watching over that? But even the most diligent are never completely safe. You can't stay on high alert all the time. Sooner or later, you have to take a break. And Jesus warned about focusing on earthly treasures where thieves break in and steal and they become corrupt. So our home is security in some sense, but it's not perfect security. It's not something that's eternal. Our earthly home is also a place of love. Husbands are taught to love their wives in Ephesians 5:25. As Christ loved the church and gave himself for it. See, what did Christ deserve? Heaven. What did he choose? To abandon it that he might redeem us to him. He chose earth. He chose death. A nasty death. That's love. And husbands are called to love. Now, I know the world thinks that the Bible teaches us that husbands are entitled to 3 square meals and a clean house to come home to and sex whenever they want it and a wife who submits to their every whim and will and desire. And while some churches may preach that, when I read Ephesians, I don't see that. What I see is that the Bible says a husband is to turn his back on everything that he should have coming and die to himself a heinous death of asphyxiation and crucifixion. That's the love we are called to, and it's a standard that we can't live up to. But we are called to love within the home, and wives are commanded to love their husbands and their children. Why do you think it needs to be commanded and taught? Because it doesn't come natural. It's tough. Love that exists in the home is often lacking a little bit, or it fades sometimes. Our earthly home is also made up of family. But as much as we love our family, none of them are here forever. We will lose them. They will lose us eventually. Heartbreak will happen in our home, this temporary home that we live in. And as much as we love our family, some of them are prone to some fallibilities, right? Anybody got that, brother? It's because of the universal problem of sin that creeps in to our lives. For all have sinned and fallen short of the glory of God. And even if our family is made up of godly people, At times, they will disappoint us. At times, they will do something, say something, be something that is not what we need at that moment. And heartache happens. As my nephew was real quick to point out, when my sister was contemplating leaving her job in Arizona and moving back to Michigan because she really missed family connection and wanted to be back involved with that, Damon said, desiring family connection is really cool, but this ain't Blue Bloods out here, people. We ain't getting together every Sunday for some harmonious gathering. It doesn't happen in the home today. You might get a snatch of it here or there, but that perfect ideal doesn't exist. So what about our eternal home then? How does it stack up? What does it look like for rest? Well, Jesus said that if you come to me, all of you who are weary and heavy laden, I will give you rest. Take my yoke on you, learn of me, for I am meek and lowly in heart, and you shall find rest unto your souls. So I don't know where you're at today. I don't know how much rest your earthly home has been failing you, but there is an assured promise that if you come to Jesus, you will find a rest for your soul. It doesn't say you may find it. It doesn't say you might find it. It says you shall find rest in the arms of the one who died for you. Well, how do we stack up on security? John wrote in Revelations that in the heaven that's to be, that nothing unclean and no one who practices abomination and lying shall ever come into it, but only those whose names are written in the Lamb's book of life. Later it says in Revelation, outside are the dogs and the sorcerers and the immoral persons and the murderers and the idolaters and everyone who loves and practices lying. All of the bad is locked out and cannot get in. Jesus said, those whom I hold in my hand, no one shall wrest from it. No one shall take it away. You can't pry it out of God's hand. The security is there, and it's for each one of us. And the Bible tells us, as far as love goes, that God is love. He is the perfect personification of what love ought to be. A love that is kind and patient and long-suffering. A love that doesn't seek its own, rather walks away from its deserving or desiring to give to others. Jesus displayed this greatest love of laying down his life that we might know him, that we might have a way to him. And our heavenly home is made up of perfect family, of a body of believers that are strengthened and renewed in the power of the Holy Spirit, that we might be in eternity all that we could have been in this temporary world. So when you compare the two, they don't really, there's really no comparison at all. Our home in heaven is far superior than the home we live in today. And we need to remember that, because we need to try to be a little bit better about creating the home here that God has intended for us. And we need to prepare our hearts that we might step into the eternal home that God has called us to. It is appointed unto everyone to die, Scripture tells us, and then the judgment. And one day we will stand before Christ and give an accounting of what we've done with our life, how we handled the things in it. And so as we live our life here, it is important to live wisely. Paul says in Ephesians, therefore be careful how you walk, not as unwise, but as wise, making the most of your time, because the days are evil. Be careful how you walk. Make the most of the time that you have, he says. It's important that we try to get it right. never lose sight of the fact that our citizenship is in heaven. But while we are here, we have a job to do. And so we are pilgrims, we are strangers, we are aliens in a foreign land just passing through with a job to do, though. And we need to make sure that we stay focused to it. Let us be so busy serving the Lord that when we reach our heavenly home, it'll be easy to account for the moments that He had given us. This Friday, we'll be hosting the band Shiny Penny. Yeah, and you guys will be happy next Sunday when we won't be making this announcement anymore, I'm sure. But I encourage you to come on out and just see what this band is all about and the message that they share. One of the songs that they have is called Find My Home. And in it, he talks about looking for things in this world that will bring him hope and that will bring him some kind of peace. So I'm chasing after things that I can call my own, but those things, they just keep failing me. Sometimes I wonder why I'm breathing, he says, and sometimes I don't, but sometimes I want the things around me to give me hope. But that kind of hope is deceiving, and it leads me down a dark, familiar road every time. If you are banking on finding completeness and satisfaction, if you think total rest and security and family and love is going to be supplied in this world, you're going to be disappointed all the time. I don't mean like all the time, boy, life stinks. That's not what I'm saying. But what I'm telling you is if that's where your hope is set, disappointment's going to come. And there's nothing we can do about it. You're going to be disappointed. And here's a shocker. You're going to be a disappointment to somebody. It's going to happen. You're going to let somebody down. It's going to break your heart. I'm going to tell you. I've done it, okay? I've been there. Where it's like, why did I say that? Why did I do that? It wasn't what my desire was. It's just what came out sometimes. But how do I find my home? How do I find my way to where God is? And Jesus said that I am the way, the truth, and the life. So we don't do this often, but I'm going to play a video that's from Shiny Penny about this Find My Home, and I'm going to open up the altars. I'm going to invite you to come forward. And I don't know, maybe you're seeking for Jesus the first time in your life. And I would implore you to come down here and just kneel at the kneelers in front of the cross or off to this side over here where it's nice and private and secluded, and just offer up your heart to Him. If you're in a place in your life right now where you have found that the things of this world have left you desperate or hopeless, and you just want to reconnect, come on down and pray while this song plays. I'll be here to pray with you if you want. I'll stay away if you want. But I just want to open up the altars while we play this and just give you an opportunity to enter into that presence, though.